In the quaint village of Rosendale, shadowed by dense woodlands and overlooked by the sprawling arms of the ancient willow tree, an unsettling chill danced through the air each fall. The old villagers spoke in hushed tones about the willow, its gnarled branches like the fingers of a wizened sage, whispering secrets on the wind. They called it the guardian, a keeper of stories darker than the night sky void of stars. Miles, a young writer, moved to Rosendale, drawn by tales of the bizarre and supernatural that seemed woven into the fabric of this village. His arrival was marked by the eerie calm that precedes the storm, and the old willow swayed as if to greet him. Intrigued by the tree's spectral presence, Miles decided to write a book, compiling the chilling events linked to it throughout the village history. As autumn crept closer, cloaking the village in hues of orange and brown, Miles started his research. He visited the local library, a cobwebbed place filled with yellowing archives that smelled of forgotten memories. There he met Eleanor, the elderly librarian, whose ancestors had lived in Rosendale since it was founded. Her voice, brittle like dried leaves, narrated the first of many sinister anecdotes. "The whispering willow sees all," she began, her eyes glinting with a mixture of fear and respect. "They say it holds the spirit of Elizabeth Halloway, a young woman accused of witchcraft centuries ago. On an autumn night much like this, she vanished, and they found her ribbon tied to one of its branches the next morning." Eleanor paused, as if the memory stirred the air itself. Her lover Thomas hanged himself from that very branch, unable to bear his grief. Chilled, yet compelled, Miles continued his delve into the macabre past. Each story, each piece of folklore spun a web of intrigue that tangled him deeper. From the spectral figures seen dancing around the willow at night, their silhouettes illuminated by moonlight, to the whispered laments carried across the wind, the tree seemed to nourish itself on sorrow and lost souls. One day, driven by an insatiable curiosity, Miles ventured to the willow at dusk. The air was cool, the sky a twilight canvas. As he approached, the whispers grew louder, a symphony of voices that beckoned him closer. He touched the bark, rough and cold, and the voices hushed in a sudden reverence. That night, Miles wrote feverishly, his pen barely keeping pace with his thoughts. But as the clock chimed midnight, a cold dread settled over him. The whispers returned, seeping through the cracks of his home, unintelligible save for one phrase, "Join us." The following days were a blur for Miles. His sleep plagued by nightmares, he saw flashes of Elizabeth's tragic fate, her eyes pleading for understanding. By day, the whispers followed him, slipping into his thoughts, urging him toward the willow. On the eve of the village's autumn festival, when the barrier between the living and the dead thins and spirits roam freely, Miles was drawn once more to the tree. He felt the pull of the voices stronger now, a magnetic lament that threatened to unravel his very being. He found himself under the willow, the branches swaying gently. "Why?" he whispered into the silence, hoping for an answer, any answer. "To remember," a voice replied, soft and melancholy, "to not be forgotten." It was Elizabeth's voice, entwined with hundreds of others, each a tale of grief and injustice bound to the willow's roots. Comprehension, sharp and mournful, pierced Miles. This tree, the guardian, was not just a keeper of dark tales, but a sanctum for tormented souls who craved to be remembered, to share their stories so they might find peace. His book, he realized, would not be one of horror, but of remembrance, an ode to the spirits ensnared by tragedy. As dawn broke, painting the sky in strokes of pink and gold, Miles left the willow with a heavy heart and a resolve to tell its stories with the dignity they deserved. The whispers seemed softer now, like a benediction, as if the tree itself approved his new-found purpose. And while the chill of the unseen lingered in Rosendale, the darkness felt a little less oppressive, guarding the sorrow with a hope that understanding would pave the way for liberation.